Syria, we'd all seen the activist videos that had come out onto the internet, so I think that was everybody's general impression. It wasn't until we actually entered Syria that you realised just how closed down the whole place was. We couldn't move for more than 500 metres in a car. This was on the Lebanese border side. We crossed. It was an absolute lockdown. Civilians couldn't move. Army would open up. Anybody came to a checkpoint, it was 50-50. You'd either be fired up on or you'd be arrested. Movement was virtually impossible without the help of the Free Syrian Army, which is also a slight misnomer. These are very lightly armed people with guns that have been brought out either from when they left the army and joined. So they're not a well-equipped, heavily trained army. They are very much a scratch organisation who were vital to getting us to Bab Amra, which was the place that myself and Marie really wanted to get to. It seemed to be the heart of the opposition, and it was also the main target on the Assad's hit list, shall we say. But nothing prepared us for the actual situation in Bab Amra. Marie and I had spent over a year in Libya, 2 months in Misrata for the siege of Misrata, so we thought, rather smugly, we'd seen it all. But on entering Bab Amra, there wasn't, and this was in the dark, we were being fired on at night, and we were coming through back roads. The situation was immediately apparent. Was the destruction. There wasn't a single building, a house, a car, a street, a tree that wasn't in some way scarred by battle. That was the evening when things were quiet. Come 6:30 in the morning, the shelling started, and it was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed in any of the war zones I'd been to. It was systematic and it was continual. It would start in one part of the neighbourhood. Bab Amra is in fact a very small neighbourhood. This wasn't Misrata where you could actually run somewhere. There is nowhere to run in Bab Amra. They would start, they would shell, they would move on 500 metres, and this would happen 16, 18 hours a day, indiscriminate shelling. There's no basements in Bab Amra, so effectively all the women, children who they were trying to protect really had nowhere to go. The best form of defence was to be in a 3-storey building, which meant that you could take 3 hits before you die. But if you're in one of the typical buildings, which was a single-storey hit, and you were hit, you were dead. It was that simple. There was nowhere to run. It was just relentless bombardment of civilians. I know we see the videos on the TV and they say cannot be verified, but I assure you they can be verified. They have been verified. We saw it, we witnessed it. The shelling was by a professional, well-trained army on a defenseless civilian population. There are no military targets in Bab Amra. The FSA work in small 5 or 6 men units who will basically sit and hide in the rubble till a tank attempts to enter. They will try to fight off the tank with light weapons, RPGs, Kalashnikovs. They're not an offensive force, so essentially the regime could sit there, drink coffee, fire mortars, tanks, any weapon they chose they could fire, and did fire into the heart of Bab Amra with no fear of reprisal. There was no sense that this was a war zone where they had to fear a strike back, because there was never any strike back. So you had an army that could sit, choose targets, do it 16 hours a day without any fear of reprisal, other than a couple of guys running around with cameras doing their best to document it. That is, in short, what is happening in Syria now.